But alrighty then. Good evening. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the channel. Here I am, Milos the Medic, your caster usually, but this time I'm going to be doing something very different, which is my own predictions. I usually ramble around a lot of different ideas, what are my predictions, or what are my thoughts, and a lot of people really do ask the questions, especially during the stream. So I'm gonna give it to you right here. It's time. Let's see the predictions as the group stages are done for ESL1 Battlefield 4. And well, we have our finalists for Cologne. They're not updated right here in the bracket because now we're recording. It's 10:15 p.m. on the 22nd of July. So in 2 weeks, we'll be starting off the final here, the global finals for ESL1 Battlefield 4 in August 6th and 7th. We're at Gamescom in Cologne, Germany. We're going to have a lot of fun here with these games. We have our finalists, of course, as you can tell. You have 8 teams, if you guys don't know. We have the global finals. We have 8 teams from the world coming from different regions, 6 from Europe, 1 from the Americas, so North and South, and of course, a single team from the Oceanic region. And so, what happened is that we had these qualifiers. A lot of teams played the different cups. So what happens in these cups is that anybody can sign up for them. So a lot of teams signed up. At the end of it, the top 8 teams, I believe, for each particular group were able to qualify on, and they moved up, at least for the Americas, it was the top 8 that were able to qualify. The Europeans, it's a lot more because obviously Europe gets 6 slots, so that's a lot more actually. That's 12 teams that ended up qualifying to these groups. And from our group stages, we had the playoffs for Oceania and the playoffs for the Americas, as well as the group stages for EU, where 4 teams were pinned against one another in Group A, B, and C. We're going to talk about those first, and then move on to the Oceanic region and the Americas. Of course, I'm mostly an EU caster, so if you ask me about anything, I probably know about the EU. Not much about the Americas. I've casted quite a few times, but not enough to really say, I know exactly what's going on. That's not true at all. However, on the Oceanic region, unfortunately, for the timings and everything, we don't get to know anything. So, yeah, I guess we'll have to see. But I'll leave the information till, just a few minutes ahead. I'm going to try and keep the video as condensed as possible. So if you have any more questions and stuff like that, be sure to pop by the stream or go on Twitter, ask me a few questions here or there, or most easily in the YouTube comment section. I'll try to reply as quickly as possible. However, let's look really quickly at Group A. We have ESLOne, Hupsucks, aka Evolution Gamers now, Unknown and Nameless. Unknown and Nameless were knocked out pretty easily. Hupsucks and ESLOne, or Evolution Gamers now, played pretty decent series, but I believe it was cleaned up by ESLOne on Galmat Railway, where Hupsucks really didn't have the coordination to take down ESLOne, and I think for that week, ESLOne didn't have 2 of their players, so they had 2 stand-ins that came in. David and another player, because Hysterias and Safe weren't around. Of course, when you're as attractive as those 2 gentlemen, you don't really need to play Battlefield Kappa. But I digress. We move on here. ESLOne and Hupsucks did manage to move on. Hupsucks really cleaned up Unknown. There was no chance for Unknown to take down Hupsucks. Their team coordination is very good, but in these qualifier, and I believe 2 weeks after that, last week when they were playing Go for BF4 as well, which it's not really much because here we're playing best of 5s and they were playing best of 1s. It doesn't tell the entire story, but they got pretty easily cleaned up by Infamous. So, looking pretty rocky. However, ESLOne has Hupsucks. In Group B, we have Penta, Infamous, Dynamic Instinct, and Ducks. Ducks losing Donut a few weeks back after NGC LAN. I'm not too sure why. Doesn't really matter too much. Dynamic Instinct didn't really have too much of a shot. Infamous and Penta did end up going head-to-head, and Penta really hammered it down with a 3-0. Penta have been on a roll, and we saw versus Infamous on Dawnbreaker how they were using those smokes to smoke off half the map and just advance on. it's really easy to spot their tactics, and I'm sure a lot of teams are already planning to counter them and use them for their own advantages. We saw today actually Fnatic using one of those tactics, but Penta really have it down to the wire. They have the angles, they have everything, and I'm sure all the teams here, all the participating 8, are gonna bring their A game and the best strats that they can find and make up. You know, it's here not just about using the normal strategies that are sort of the meta of Squad Obliteration, which is the official game mode and has been for a few months. It's about creating your own, because it's not been played for a year and a half. Like Domination. So there's still a lot of room to improve. Hey, StarCraft 2's been out for 5 years, and every single time they find a different one. Let's say, what was it, a couple weeks ago? You know, dropping Immortals, who would have thought? Anyways, I am a fanboy of StarCraft. But Penta, Infamous, managing to move on. It's really looking like, you know, you can easily tell that the top teams that myself or Brett would have said, you know, these guys are going to qualify, no problem. They indeed did. ESLOne, Hapsucks, or Evolution Gamers, Penta, Infamous. On the other side there, in Group C now, Fnatic, Mangust, Nabab, and BGenius. Mangust, Novax. This is not the old Adalax team. They didn't have their star players, and there's just no way for them to continue on. Fnatic really cleaned house there. Nabab gave a bit of a fight. They beat BGenius first, and then they moved on today to play versus Fnatic. They took one MCOM, and like, that's already something. Nobody was expecting anything out of this group, but it was between the 3 teams here, Nabab, Mangust, and BGenius, where the fight would really happen. And BGenius tried their best, but there were really obvious and glaring issues with BGenius, but as well with Nabab. Now, I don't know if somebody from Nabab is going to watch this, but I hope you are. And let me tell you something. Please, please, please do not peek corners when you know there's people behind. Nabab, they didn't use any smokes versus Fnatic. That's not something you do when you're playing top tier teams. It just doesn't work that way. Have to use smokes to block off, especially on Zavot. They have the advantages in positioning and manpower, but they just let it go. They peek corners where they know they can't take the fight, and they get shot down. It's not good. It's no bueno. And well, Fnatic and Nabab did qualify, so that's very, very good. However, Nabab don't have Noah, because Noah can't go to LAN for Gamescom, so I'm not too sure who they're gonna bring. Hopefully they'll be able to fix everything, because of course, since this is a tournament that's being played on German territory, you can't be, you know, younger than 18, or it just doesn't work. So that's it. That's for the groups in the EU. It's just now like recollecting all the information before we go into the actual predictions. Dexterity versus Uran. I have to say, Dexterity, they played extremely well. Uran took one map, but didn't really matter too much. The games, though, were intense. Intense. Every single one of these, at least these 2 games here, were intense. And the day before, when we had the larger bracket, of course, for the first playoffs, all the teams were fighting, because there's only one slot, and I wish there was at least a second one for these teams. Dexterity plowing through Uran, no problem there. Team Synthic surprised everyone, and I do believe they could have won, but what happened is that they lost Siege of Shanghai because one of their players dropped off the start, and they lost one MCOM. When their 5th player reconnected, they were able to tie it back, but they lost the map overall because they couldn't handle it at the start. They would have constant issues with players dropping and all of that, and that is no bueno at all. JOP put up a fantastic fight, and indeed in the finals, but Dexterity, I almost beat Fnatic, but they got to the finals last season for a reason. It's a different game mode, but these players are extremely impressive in their plays and extremely smart. So from me talking to them, they are previously a Call of Duty team and all of that, but they have been adapting to Squad of Blade very well. However, it's going to be very special to see how they can adapt their plays versus the EU players, because when you see Asian teams playing and South American teams playing and Europeans, then it's very, very different between everybody. And let me mute Steam here. So, you know, we're gonna have to see what goes on. Of course, you can't see the bracket, but this is Oceania, and I believe Legionnaires made it to the finals. There were 4 teams. Legionnaires made it to the finals, and they won. But since they weren't able to go there, they're not able to go to Cologne because of player issues and stuff like that. It was relegated down to Exile 5, who are the second team, and Exile 5 are going to be going to the finals at ESLOne Cologne. Hopefully we'll get to see them there. Crossing fingers, get to go and cast. But yeah, now we go to the final bit. Who, in my mind, can take it? Well, it really depends on the groups. We have 8 teams, and what happens is that we have 2 groups of 4 teams in each one of them, and the biggest thing for a team like ESLOne and a team like Penta, especially for Penta, is that since Penta know that Fnatic will get top seed, and a tie here, but ESLOne did take the win, 2 teams that were in the same group cannot be in the same, or won't be in the same group and at the final. But number one from each team, from each bracket, can be in the same group. However, Exile 5 and Dexterity have to be in different groups. So it really depends on the groups. I think if Penta land in a group that has Fnatic in it, or maybe it would go up, let's say Penta, Hupsucks, and Nabob with Legionnaires, with Exile 5 or Dexterity, then I think Penta can sneak out and go into the semis. However, if it's a stacked group and all of that, then we'll have, like, I don't know, Fnatic, Penta, and let's say Nabob and Dexterity. It's gonna be very, very difficult to see where Penta can make what they can make out of it. And I'm focusing on Penta because I've casted a lot of their games and seen a lot of the games and seen a lot of the games in general, but their style of play has been very much adapted to the maps, and they are not that team that, extra rush, extra aggressive all the time like we saw Dexterity back in the Domination days, and the previous ESLOne in spring 2015. But they're a team that are more calm and recollected, and they have very tricky tactics here and there that can really play very heavily in their favor. Infamous, they have Rella, the human aimbot. This guy is just crazy. Jazer, their inductee since the previous season, has been playing very well. Really, really happy with his performance, and I'm pretty sure his teammates are as well. They weren't able to take down Penta, so I don't see Infamous making it to the semifinals. I do see Penta as a clear contender. ESLOne, House Hupsucks, if they can get it together. ESLOne, their issue is that Safe doesn't play too much, and when you play only 5v5, it's not like 10v10 whatever. What happens is that one player has a lot of stress on him, so he can't just command the team and be the in-game leader. He has to frag as well and has to be one of the team members, not as much, but do his job. And it pains me to say that Saif is not living up to the fragging ability that we've all been used to seeing from him before. Hopefully, as he just came back from holidays, he'll be able to make everything happen and fix everything, hopefully, because they will require the best that they can get if they want to get out of the groups and remain in that top 3-4 team slot, which is very important. Prize money differs here and there, and it's for the passion of the esports and the game itself. But you have to keep in mind that these teams are playing for a title, and they're playing for quite a bit of money at the end of this. 45,000 euro prize pool. So stuff will be distributed in between the different teams that are attending. But 30,000 bucks at the end of the season, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, man. So there's a lot to be made here, and definitely they are a big contender. But Nabab, uh, can they make it? I don't think so. My prediction is that Nabab will be the MHSV of this, and pardon me for this, but they probably will be the MHSV of this season, even though I love the players from Nabab and they're all very nice people. Actually, all of the teams here have very nice people in their squads, and most of them I've met in the previous season. But will they actually be able to make a change after losing so hard versus Fnatic and seeing them play versus a team like Infamous, which I think Infamous is your first crack as at the top 4 or 5 teams. If you can't beat or at least try to beat Infamous, I don't think you can do anything versus the other teams. And it's not saying Infamous are a lower team, but they are the team that would be set at a certain bar. From Infamous on, you get to the really top tier teams, and there the game completely changes for most people. But the elephant in the room, not so much, because they're all pretty skinny. Fnatic, what can I say? I don't want to be. I hate people that always say that, and it kind of tickles me here and there when all I hear is oh Fnatic, but they're good. They have a pretty good chance of winning. What do you want me to say? They're pretty good. The only contenders I would see is ESLOne, Dexterity, and Penta. And if ESLOne can't get their stuff together with Saif and having him playing correctly in tangent with Hysterias and Zika, because Zika is a fantastic player playing for ESLOne, that guy's just crazy with the accuracy. So I really think they can do something if they can get their stuff together. Penta, with last time we saw it was Wyros busting out the Dutch tactics that were, of course, inspired by Lexi's nationality, and they smoked up half of Dawnbreaker and were able to take the win pretty handily. They played versus Fnatic in a few Go Fours, and they played very well. Though Fnatic, I believe the set between them is about 4-2 or 3-2 for Fnatic. But it's very equal. They are, again, best of ones, but there's not a lot of information to be had. A lot of the teams, if they play PCWs, they don't disclose them, and with a lot of teams, PCWs aren't taken seriously, so you can't really say much. And they haven't met since the qualifiers in the previous cups, and it was always, they're gonna make it to the finals, and then they're gonna secure second seed, but Fnatic are gonna win it every single time. I really would love to see it broken, not just this, not to say, Fnatic, annoying or whatever. No, not at all. They are the best for a very, very good reason. But I would like to see some team come up and actually show us why they are this good. Because a lot of teams will say, we're good. Well, what do you measure up versus Fnatic? What do you measure up versus ESLOne or stuff like that? That's where it really matters. And really, beating ESLOne or Penta Infamous, that's one thing, but beating Fnatic is a totally different thing. Not a lot of teams will be able to do so, except for Dexterity. I don't expect much of Exile 5. Oceanic teams normally weren't able to do too much, and so I don't know enough about them to say, they have an advantage here and there and here. No, they're good. They qualified, but they qualified in second seed after Legionnaires gave up their spot. And Legionnaires were almost the same team, except for Shady that was playing with them, I think, this season. And one player won't be the entirety of the change. Like, this squad of Blit, you play team play. This is not domination where you run around with your, like a chicken with its head cut off. It doesn't work that way. So I don't expect much from Exile 5. Making it there is already very good for them. If they can get, if they're in the same group as, let's say, Nabab, and they're able to beat them, would be fantastic. But I would be very hard pressed to say that, might not be able to do much. It's a shame. On the other side, Dexterity. Obviously, they're, in my mind, in the top 3. In my mind, the top 3 are Fnatic, Dexterity, and Penta. Dexterity, though, they only have been playing versus Brazilian teams and like American teams during this season. Not like before in Domination, we saw them in a couple of other cups playing against the Europeans. uh, which is, you know, a bit disheartening. But I hope Dexterity will be coming as soon as possible to Gamescom so they can practice and really get acclimated to everything, because you're at a stage, you know, everything much bigger than ESLOne previously in the spring, where you're in a tiny studio and all that. Now you're at an actual stage, and they played a few lands before, but Fnatic, they know what they're doing. They're calm and collected, and they have drunks behind them. The leader almost calming everybody down, especially Too Easy. Can get a bit rowdy, but that guy, his aim is just, it's good. So it's all up to what Dexterity can do, but I do believe, if you ask me, semifinals, ESLOne, Penta, Fnatic, and Dexterity. Either ESLOne or Infamous. I don't think Hupsucks can do much. They're mostly a mixed team. Never expect much from a mixed team. They haven't been playing for long enough for us to say, oh, these guys, you know, they definitely have a strong suit. They're very good players individually, but from what I've seen in the qualifier cups, you know, you play against smaller teams, yeah, sure, but when you play against the big dogs, I'm not too sure they can take them down. So yeah, ESLOne, Penta, Fnatic, and Dexterity for semis. Depending on how that all functions, I don't think Fnatic and Dexterity would be on the same side of the bracket. So let's say it's ESLOne, Fnatic, or ESLOne. If it's ESLOne, Dexterity, it's Dexterity to win. Like, I don't see ESLOne playing too well versus Dexterity, especially after last time. You think it's a joke, but that actually scarred a lot of players. ESLOne, it really depends on how they make it through the qualifiers. Not the qualifier, but the group stage. If they can play the group stage at the finals at LAN correctly, which means that they're on point, then yes, I do think they can fight off a team like Dexterity and try versus Fnatic. If not, then I don't think they can make it even through the group stages. Depends on what happens, depends on the groups. Again, nothing is official just yet, so we're going to be waiting for them. I think they're going to be announced next week, along with the official caster lineup and some more information. So we'll see with that. And Hupsucks, again, I don't see really much Evolution gamers. I don't really see them coming out of the group stages. MYM, which half of them are MYM, half are, well, SK, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. And then Gino from MHSV with Guerra. I don't even remember where Guerra was from, which team. But I don't think they have it in them to make it out of the groups versus, you know, because they're only two groups. If we had 12 teams with, you know, four groups and 3 teams per group, then yeah, it would go into quarterfinals and that would be a different story, but that's not the case. Unfortunately, BF4 is not that big of an esport, which breaks my heart, but, you know, still, realistically, it does make a lot of sense. And, yeah, other than that, I think Penta can be something versus Fnatic if they do end up in the finals. Not too sure about them versus Dexterity. I've seen them play a few PCWs, but I'm not too sure just yet. And, yeah, it really ends up being which team can take it to the finals. And I think Fnatic definitely do have a slot there. However, it's very, very tight between Penta and Dexterity for that final slot, depending on the groups as well. Not sure if Penta is going to be with Fnatic as well. If so, then it's going to be a different, you know, shuffle up and all of that, because only 2 teams can get out of the groups, and they'll be switched around the semifinals. And yeah, I believe that's about it. Not much else to say other than good luck, have fun to all the teams, and hopefully when we get to Gamescom, or when they get to Gamescom, nothing's confirmed for me just yet, so hopefully I'll see you there. If anything, I'll see you in stream chat. And yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun seeing which team will be crowned the best. The streak from Fnatic, 4 times ESL1 champions in a row. Will that streak be broken finally? Or will the champions rise again? No, we'll just have to keep around and see what happens. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. August 6th to 7th, of course, it's going to be all broadcasted on twitch.tv/ESL_BF4. So be sure to watch it there. Both days, 6th and 7th of August. And yeah, if you're going to Gamescom, be sure to pop by hall number 9. It was confirmed today. and you'll be able to meet some DICE people, as well as all the players, the crew, the casters, and our head admins, of course, Pio, Winner as well coming there. Let's not forget Pio again. Kappa. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys soon, and good luck, have fun. See you at LAN.